Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now, the next panelist is the gentleman who is responsible for all of us being here, Dr. Surinder. Request you to take the floor, please.
Good evening. The distinguished guests, on the dais, off the dais, ladies and gentlemen. A lot has been said now about IHL, the book to a greater extent, and I'm very happy that all the experts who came for the panel has gone through the book, which is quite voluminous. As you have seen, it's 2,000 plus pages of sheer law, which is written in it. Reading all throughout that is quite demanding, and I'm happy that all of them have skimmed through it at least and have spoken on it. I'm very thankful to them. So I'm not going to talk much about IHL now because I have better speakers and knowledgeable people on IHL here. But definitely I would say a few words about the book, how it happened, and of course a small outline of the book itself. But before going to that, and I won't take much time, before going to that, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to all the guests, including the Minister of State for External Affairs. In absentia, he came here, at least because of his meetings in Parliament, he could not be here and launch the book as we have planned. But he was kind enough to come here and meet all of us and bless the occasion. So I'm very happy for that. And I'm thanking on behalf of all of us who are sitting here for his presence here. Likewise, the people who are sitting here are not just experts for me. You know, these are people whom I always looked up to, you know, on IHL international law, starting with Justice Madan Lokur. He is an expert, a person whom people of my generation, of IHL students, international law students, always look up to, always, you know, try to idealize. Just being here, handling most of the time laws relating to our country, you know, hardly or very rarely dealing with international law. He, out of his, you know, interest in international law, has made himself into one of the best scholars of international law in our country. And he is one of them I always looked up to and always followed. So I never got an opportunity to tell you that. But this is an occasion where I can tell that. And that's why when I wrote this book, I wanted you to write the foreword. And along with that, Mr. Yahia, Alibi, as he has said, a former colleague, a friend for a long time. And I kept meeting him in Geneva even after I have left ICRC. And he has been an encouragement, has been a friend, guiding me all throughout the practical side of international law. I'm very happy that he has agreed to write the foreword and come here and speak good words and the thought-provoking aspects of international humanitarian law, which not many of us could speak because we are more into academics, research, reading, and reproducing what we are getting from others like him. So his experience and knowledge he acquired through different places, especially Syria and all those volatile places he has mentioned, and the complexity of international humanitarian law, the classification of international humanitarian, armed conflicts. All these are matters which we always look up to for learning from people like that. And I would definitely be in touch with you, sir, for further ideas. As you have said, I would love to have a look at the further research on the complexities, at least in Indian context or in South Asian context. I will definitely do that. Then I'm very happy that I'm meeting Oscar for the first time, but he has made a wonderful, given a wonderful message on this occasion, telling us about the perspectives of UNHCR, UN peacekeeping missions, etc. here. And I'm very happy that he came all the way and met us and given this message during this occasion. And the person on the far left, sitting here, on my left, sitting here, has been a colleague, a friend, a mentor, a lot more than that. He has always been in my journey as a person who tried to disseminate international humanitarian law for almost 10, 12 years, if I'm not wrong. And I value your words, the words spoken by you. I know that comes from a soldier who has both the humanitarian side as well as a soldier's heart. I'm very thankful for you, sir, to be here and grace this occasion, and all the friends who have come all the way here for this occasion, for this launch. Thank you so much. And now, I won't take much time. I'll just briefly summarize the outline of the book, because I know that it's not possible for me to give you a fairly good understanding of the book in this given short span of time. It's impossible. And outline I will give you, and before that, a small short note on how I reached to this book. There's a story behind it. It's almost 10 years before, I had an opportunity to meet, I should express gratitude to him also, that's why I'm telling you this story. Almost 10 years back, I had an opportunity to go and meet Mr. Justice P. Sadashivam, who was at that time the most senior-most judge of Supreme Court. He would later on become the 40th Chief Justice of India and the Governor of the state of Kerala, where I belong. So in that discussion, I was there as a part of the IHL delegation speaking on human rights and international humanitarian law. While speaking there, discussing with him, he mentioned the point that, see, human rights, what is happening within the country and how it is being implemented in India is well documented in one way or another. We have a Human Rights Commission which does that. So, but when it comes to international humanitarian law, there is a lot of ignorance on that topic. Even some of the judges, they don't know what exactly international humanitarian law. They have a really, they really have to struggle when it comes before it. And that is very evident in the book when I wrote it, when I analyzed the cases. I will come to that later. But here, what is most important is, he told me this, and that struck my mind. So I really came out, I started looking at this fact, whether there is a grudge of, or a lack of, a gap of international humanitarian law implementation, resources in India. And I found he's correct. We have a lot of books on international humanitarian law, which is on general international humanitarian law at global level, implementation at global level, everything is there. But consolidation of implementation of international humanitarian law in India, analyzing what has happened in India about international humanitarian law, how courts have looked into these issues, that has not been touched upon. So this was 10 years back. So I had this idea, I got that seed when I was having this discussion. Then unfortunately, because of personal reasons, I have to go out of the country. I went to US, I was working there for some time. So but this was in my mind. So later on, only in 2017, I could sign a contract with Thomson Reuters to work upon this book. And I'm very thankful to them, because this big book of 2,000 pages, having it printed and marketing it is not that easy. The economic viability of that book, and it is costly because of its size, because of its quality, it has to be costly, and marketing it in a mass level would be a real challenge. But even after knowing that, despite all the challenges they might face in the future, they agreed, very well agreed, and signed this contract. And then I took 2 years to complete this book, actually. And of course, the pandemic has taken its toll. Another 1 year has gone, and because of the pandemic, lockdown and everything, the publisher has to struggle and come out with the publication, and finally it is here. And they have mentioned, as Mr. Kumerason has mentioned, this is the first launch. And I'm very happy that that first launch is happening with a very good panel sitting here, coming out of their house and launching a book. Only because they are driven by the same spirit which I carry, because they want to spread this message of international humanitarian law. So I'm very happy and thankful. And coming 2-3 minutes to tell about the book. The book is divided into two parts. The first part is the analytical part, where I have analyzed, as most of the speakers have said, starting with an introduction where I made it a point that it is simple enough for a novice reader, at the same time refreshing for somebody who is already knowledgeable in international humanitarian law. So it serves both the purpose. And the second chapter is about international humanitarian law in India, both ancient and modern perspectives. So Justice Lokur and Yahia as well mentioned about the strength India as a country, or its strength South Asia as a region, because we can't say just India, because we were part of South Asia at that point of time. The maps keep changing all the time, so we cannot simply politically say India to that heritage. We belong to that part of the world where all this has developed. And then coming to the modern international humanitarian law aspect of implementation, where India's 23 conventions which India has signed, and 3 of the conventions has been translated to an implementation legislation. So all this has been mentioned, and that's the second chapter. And the third chapter, I dug deep into the aspects of implementation of modern international humanitarian law in India, which includes the analysis of the legislation, which is, as I told you, 3 implementation legislation, starting from the Geneva Conventions Act to the other 2. And then I have also touched upon, as Brigadier Anand has mentioned, Army, Air Force and Navy Act, which is exclusively dealing with the matters relating to armed forces, but which has the principles of international humanitarian law incorporated into it. Along with that, I have also dealt with the Terrorist Act as well as the Human Rights Act of India. So that's the analysis on the third chapter. The fourth chapter is about the analysis, a clear-cut analysis on 10 cases, 9 plus 1 cases on international humanitarian law decided by Indian courts, mostly high courts and Supreme Court. Let me tell you, not to misguide you, all these 10 cases didn't handle IHL as a subject matter. Only one case in all this, in a case which was handled in decided by the Supreme Court in 1970, Reverend Mundia. Most of you might be knowing Reverend Mundia was the state of Goa, which was something related to the liberation of Goa at that point of time in the 60s. So that is the only case where IHL as a law was invoked before the courts in India. Rest of them referred to international humanitarian law. They talked about prisoners of war. They talked about refugee issues and trying to find solution in international humanitarian law. So they have, the judges, the courts have gone out of the box thinking, trying to bring in solutions for issues in other areas of human rights violation, refugee issues, and trying to solve it through international humanitarian law. So all that has been analyzed. There is an analysis, a summary, along with the discussions happened in this the court relating to this. So that is the fourth chapter, and the final chapter in the first part is about the international humanitarian law in its customary form, how India, customary international law as International Committee of the Red Cross would put it, the study. So the practices carried out or followed by Indian system, both at executive level, military level, as well as at the diplomatic level. So these customary principles of international humanitarian law has been consolidated. I have banged a lot on the customary study done by International Committee of the Red Cross, and it is just the principle. I have put them together with the sources from where it has been taken, so that the people who are reading it can go further and discuss on that issue. So that forms the first part, which is more of an analysis and telling you how international humanitarian law has been dealt in India so far. So that is the first part, and the second part is nothing but a compendium of the legislations, conventions, and the case laws dealing with international humanitarian law or relevant to international humanitarian law in India. So the purpose of the book, as most of the speakers have mentioned, is nothing but to give a one-stop tool for those who want to deal with international humanitarian law. Those people could be a policymaker, like the government system, or it could be international organizations, it could be a group of people who are researching upon the issues of international humanitarian law, academic students. Also, it serves the purpose for every kind of people who want to handle international humanitarian law. So that is what I conceived, and as I could hear from the panelists who have gone through it, have given a good review, and I will wait for more reviews from people outside, those who are going to read it, and of course improve upon it. I'm sure that it's not a perfect book. It needs to be improved. The next edition, if the Thomson Reuters help us in coming up with the next edition, we will definitely improve it and make sure that it is updated to the newest developments which are coming up, and that is what is going to happen. With that, I think I should stop now, and I will leave it with the panel for further discussions, if any, on this. And thank you once again for all of you to come over and grace this occasion, and I'm really obliged to all of you for being here. Thank you so much.
Yes, why not? Why not? Just to again reiterate my thanks and our pride for this very, very important book, because you can have everywhere the international instruments and treaties. So it's there. But one of the main issue and challenge is the national implementation of these treaties. And I think this book really, I think Geneva Convention is there, let's say, and India was one of, I think, the first signatory of this body of law. I think the first even in Asia justice. But it's not only about the international treaty. I think the case studies there and the domestic implementation, and this is the most, I think, needed and much needed work in India and everywhere. Second, if maybe to complement what I